So Todd, feel free to, great, you're letting everyone in. Welcome, everybody. We're letting folks get admitted into the room right now, and more will join. So we want to get started right on time because we have a wonderful presentations today to share. So welcome everyone to our second meeting of MassDEP's Deconstruction Working Group. We're delighted that all of you chose to join us for today's discussion. The focus of this working group is deconstruction of the built environment, as well as developing a robust building materials reuse infrastructure here in Massachusetts. My name is Kathy Mirza, and I'm an environmental analyst for MassDEP, and I'm coordinating the efforts of this deconstruction working group alongside Brooke Nash, who is our municipal waste reduction branch chief. We aim to connect stakeholders from all perspectives so that we have a place to share what we know, learn together, and take steps to support this component of the reuse economy in Massachusetts. Before we dive into our meeting, I'd like to review a little bit of housekeeping. So please note that this meeting is being recorded, and this recording will be made available to all attendees and posted on MassDEP's website. Please be sure that your name and organization are visible on screen. So if you're unfamiliar with Zoom, you'll want to click on the dots, the three dots in the top right corner of your image, and then select rename. You can also, if you don't do that, you could click on the participants icon and then rename yourself, but please be sure to include your organization. We also ask that you keep your microphone on mute during the presentations to minimize any background noise. If you have questions or information to share as we move through the presentations, please feel free to use the chat box, which you can see on your screen. Now, today we have over 170 people registered for the call from a wide range of industries and organizations, and we're thrilled that so many are interested in this topic. We encourage your participation in this conversation as we have a lot of work to do together. So in place of individual introductions, because we have so many folks on today, we're going to launch a brief poll to ask what sector you represent so that our speakers and participants get a snapshot of who is joining us today. So Todd, if you would please launch that poll. And if folks would just take a moment, there are 10 choices here. Whether it's government, architect, engineer, general contractor, deconstruction or demolition contractor, reuse organization, waste and recycling, hauling, processing, disposal, business, institution or school, historic preservation, a consultant or nonprofit, workforce development, or perhaps there's another sector that we haven't included here, and you could click other in that case. And when we have most people participating, then we can close it. But I think if we give it just one more minute, we have most folks.
Yeah, we're at 90%, Kathy.
90%, great. So if you could just end that, please. And it looks like so far on the call, we've got quite a diverse group here and a lot more joining us as we go. So it looks like all sectors represented except for workforce development so far. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop sharing that. And so this working group met for the first time in September to kick off our efforts. MassDEP's 2030 Solid Waste Master Plan spells out our commitment to create action plans for key waste reduction areas, including reduce and reuse. Now, these action plans are designed to engage stakeholders so we can develop activities and initiatives to achieve progress in priority areas. Now, just about exactly 1 year ago, we released our first Reduce and Reuse Action Plan, which identifies building materials as a priority stream for reuse. Now, this led to the development of this deconstruction working group, which is our first subgroup in the reuse arena. Now, a snapshot of our goals for this group are listed on this slide, which you can see. They include gaining a better understanding of how much C&D material is being wasted in Massachusetts and to identify opportunities for reuse, helping to grow the reuse industry for building materials, being sure to align our work with MassDEP's Reduce and Reuse Action Plan, and minimizing climate impacts while enabling workforce development and job training. And through this process, we really want to aim to educate and share across all stakeholder groups, because together we'll be exploring incentives and grants, market opportunities, efficient ways to connect materials and supply with those who want it, identifying local deconstruction practitioners, learning about design for reuse and adaptive reuse, ways to earn lead points, and deconstruction policies and ordinances. I'd like you to meet the planning team. So you can see that we have terrific folks here and everyone's on the call today. This team represents industry as well as federal, state, and local government and nonprofit sector too. So the photo in this slide, before we move on to our main speakers, this shows demolition of the high school in my town, right down the street from me. And I took this photo just a couple of weeks ago as they demo this building. And it just became so clear to me when I took this shot and I looked in the center here and I can see the bookshelves that are still from the library right there in the center of the photo. And I just sort of shook my head, and I think, as we turn our attention to reuse of these materials, there are really boundless opportunities. I do want to share a few highlights from our kickoff meeting from September. We all learned that about 30% of what we discard in Massachusetts is from construction and demolition activities. That's about 1.5 million tons annually. We learned that embodied carbon in the built environment comes from emissions from the extraction, manufacturing, transportation, installation, maintenance, and disposal of these materials. And as buildings become more energy efficient, nearly half of the greenhouse gas emissions from newer buildings will be from this embodied carbon, because the operational emissions will be falling. We also heard that mandatory deconstruction ordinances, executive orders, incentives, plans, and advisory groups are popping up all over the US and Canada, and that reuse is possible when we understand the benefits, technologies, training, opportunities, partnerships, and assistance that are available. So today's presentations are really designed to get everyone inspired about what's possible in this arena, as we hear from trailblazers who've been deconstructing buildings for decades. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker. We have, and we're delighted to have Dave Benink here with us of the Building Deconstruction Institute. He's trained groups in 44 states and 4 provinces. He's helped to start new sustainable businesses and diverted over 100 million pounds from landfills. He focuses on growing the circular economy, zero waste and energy movements, embodied carbon, and sustainable building. His reuse organization has completed over 1,350 deconstruction projects and has worked on over 5,000 projects. To keep in practice, Benink also runs a reuse store and deconstruction contracting firm. He markets reclaimed wood and salvages and sells mature landscaping from job sites. He was voted National Deconstructor of the Year, and he also recently won a Sustainable Leadership Award and National Reuse Educator of the Year. So with no further ado, I will hand the floor over to Dave Benink. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, it's kind of ironic that on Monday we start a high school. We're salvaging a high school on Monday, so maybe that'll make you feel a little bit better about your high school. I don't know. So yeah, I'm Dave Benink from. Look at all those logos. I guess I'm from everywhere. I'm from the Building Deconstruction Institute today, but we have a consulting firm, and we have our reuse center, which we call the Reuse Innovation Center. I have a slide on that later. Next slide. Yeah, and so like that bio that I sent over is dated, but yeah, we have diverted a lot of materials from the landfill. I think the thing is that you have to understand a little bit about me. Even though I say 100 million pounds, I realize that that's nothing. It's irrelevant because it isn't enough, you know. And so our job was that, can we start 1,000 new reuse businesses that are all diverting 100 million pounds? And what would that look like? And that would be a significant amount of benefit to the environment and the communities. So next slide. So yeah, this is our 30th year. And next slide. We have been basically taking buildings apart and selling the parts, if you want to simplify it. But if you want to go a little deeper, you could see that we have 5 focus areas, and one of them is historic preservation. These aren't in any particular order, but I'm just going to let's just talk about 5 of them real quick. We, when you are fixing up a historic building, you can't exactly go to Home Depot. And so, we're not the ones that decide whether an old building is being torn down. So we try to find a sustainable alternative to demolition. But what it does is it feeds a lot of great material that is era specific to historic preservation projects. We benefit the environment and help with climate change in our own way. And a lot of that is the resources and energy that we preserve. Means you don't have to expend a lot more energy and dig out a lot more resources to continue. We have a lot of materials that we're saving, and it's preventing a lot of that new production from happening or being necessary. Affordable housing and materials, that's a huge one for us. We like selling affordable materials. We're not just selling antiques. We're not just selling beautiful reclaimed wood. We do sell those things when they come to us, but we are proud of the fact that we take down all types of buildings and we deal with all types of building materials, even the boring ones, because that's the only way to get it to add up to 100 million pounds. You have to take everything you can and